ladies and Germans, how you all doing? This is Con Rick.
This is Ringru. Hello, hello, hello.
And folks, it's a bit of a tough sell today, but Ryan, tell us, who do we have and what's going on?
On the left-hand side in the blue, we have Znat playing as Reimer Apana with Maverick Income. Right-hand side in the red, we have UUUU playing first pose with also a Maverick Income. And we've got some pretty hot air action right off the bat here.
Oh yeah, you know how I like it, man. I love those biplanes. Got to give them a biplane action here. And indeed, right now, early biplanes, early rocket runs, and he's going to force early dives out of those superior rocks. So it doesn't sound like a great, massive thing there, folks. But again, that early loss of mobility, very, very important on that initial breakout.
Yeah, those planes aren't too expensive. He spent just like 125 points in total for those aircraft. Which actually does add up to a little bit. It could be, quite a lot of Yukari Scorch on the front line. I don't think that really paid off well for him, but we'll have to see. He's actually going pretty light in the center here for Znat. He's really not playing much yet, and usually the center hill is such an important area to capture. Just kind of spreading everything out along the north and southern flanks.
But, I kind of understand that, though, too. I mean, so often we've seen that people will focus hardcore on the middle hill and lose the northern flank, this bigger hill here because of it. And by the same extension, down in the south, yeah, I mean, it's underutilized, certainly, because you do have just not a lot of flags. But if you lock down that bridge, first of all, that's an easy flag right there. That means at that point it's at the crossroads, so there's benefits. They're not easy to see necessarily, but there are benefits to it.
Oh, but UU definitely feels like a bit more of a concentrated force. Manson to get onto the central hill pretty easy peasy. Actually getting a lot of anti-tank rifle teams and just kind of spreading them around. They're going to be definitely effective anti-tank killers, considering the only armor you have to kill are T-26s and BA-10s. Those things might as well be Pack 40s.
Exactly. And in this particular case, there's only, 9 T-26s over the entire match? So, a good freaking luck.
Yeah, that's a real funny thing about playing Reimer Apana. You can just kind of clear out your anti-tank tab and just replace it with artillery guns, and you won't really miss anything out.
Exactly. But I mean, we will potentially see some much stronger air power over here, I would argue, from the Rapana than what we're used to seeing from a lot of those other kind of auxiliary Axis nations.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they got a lot of the cheap plane spam, but also the Poles, they do have those dreaded IL-2s, so they can definitely slap back pretty well, but whereas Znat definitely has safety in numbers with all of his aircraft.
I am surprised, I would say impressed, but I'm surprised that U to the fourth here is not being a little bit more aggressive around that central hill.
Yeah, I think he probably just thinks there's more stuff on the enemy side, which is a reasonable assumption to make. But as we can see with our God Vision, there's just not really anything there, so he's just kind of getting his reinforcements out.
I think if I could kind of minorly disagree, just because if your opponent uses the 125, like you argue, that's a considerable investment. Almost like a 20% investment just off the get-go. You've got to know he's weak someplace. You've seen he's got a lot of material in the north. You know there's got to be some kind of weakness down to the south. I just feel like if the absolute southern particular piece here has not really been moved until just this instant, that tells you there's not a whole lot in that central position.
No, that's actually a fair point. There's definitely, you kind of do need to pick up on those things. And that is actually pushing pretty heavy down south, moving. I'm not going to try and pronounce these Finnish infantry to save myself the embarrassment. But he has these rather beefy Scorch moving on through, but UU has a pretty decent defense line in that town.
And I'm sure there are people out there who would say something like, oh yes, why attack if there's not that much investment he can get out of it? But if you break the Finnish front lines, especially since we've been talking about the fact that what are you going to fight against, on the second line? What, T-26s? Ooh, very scary. And your infantry matches up well, you might as well be aggressive as much as you can.
Yeah, it's just about using those. Really, I think for UU, it's going to be about using those T-34s effectively, because this is a great T-34 map. Up north, Znat is also pushing heavy up here as well, really trying to play his flanks rather effectively, moving in a bunch of infantry, and actually going to be able to get into that town, it feels like. There's really not much of a defense here from UUU, and that could spell disaster, losing that hill so early on.
That certainly could. That certainly could. Continue to look at right in that central position, though, the T-34E. Not a whole lot that can really deal with him. Like, I'm looking
really.
around, and gonna what, peel flakes off his tank until he dies from just old age. T-26, he's not gonna do much either. He's gonna go down here in one hit. There we go. So we're gonna see what just tons of planes for a very, very big investment for a single couple of tanks, right?
Yeah. I mean, both those aircraft, you really have to get 2 to 3 kills of those aircraft to really pay off, but they are pretty good anti-tank planes, and Watchers, like said, they're not going to do anything. Yeah, they force it back, and he's going to... it doesn't even kill the T-70. Yeah, there we go.
And one's going to go down. Hey, at least the Yak went down.
Yeah, the EMS coming in, swooping for the kill.
And the Hawk is forced away.
If we look all the way down south, UUU is doing a sneaky AT rifle flank here. He could probably not going to pick up any big tanks, as there's no big tanks to pick up, but he could potentially kill an infantry squad or two.
And even if he doesn't kill them, if he forces them out of their trucks, and indeed we're seeing the same thing over here in the central position too. We got 2 behind the lines. Which, very optimistic push on one of them in terms of his travel point here. Not sure that's going to happen. But I like his gumption.
Yeah, I mean, they're only 10-point sheets, so those are definitely acceptable maneuvers to do. If you lose them, who cares? It's only like 10 points.
True. Trying to keep an eye on things. You know, I'm just as fascinated as you, I think, looking at this northernmost town. Universal Carrier going down, which is quite funny to think about the fact that that's the heaviest thing within 400 miles. Excuse me, 400 meters.
There's a T-70, yeah.
Oh no, there is, but he's just kind of chilling at the side of that whole kind of madness for a bit. He's not being very aggressive, which I understand. He knows there's a lot of other material that's kind of sitting in wait for him. But yeah.
Yeah, neither side has really been all that aggressive early on. I mean, both are playing a bit more, infantry, so divisions, and Shell can be a pretty scary map to push through because there's so much forest one has to clear out. So I feel like it's going to be more of the slower end on the Maverick battles. It's not going to be Panzer divisions out and circling each other. It's just going to be a very grindy infantry fight.
Skulls for the skull throne, blah blah blah. B810 in the meantime, though, is going to pick up a couple of kills here, and I would imagine that this, the PTRS behind the front lines. Yep, picking up another kind of cheeky kill or two.
Not bad.
I feel like I should qualify that kind of attitude. I agree with you that the tank pushes aren't going to be present here, but then again, on Cell, we don't really see crazy tank pushes because everything is so condensed. So, if both people are playing Maverick, doesn't it kind of behoove them to say, I know my opponent's getting stronger here in a minute, I am too, but I know what I have, I don't know what he has.
Yeah.
I know right now I'm just kind of cheering for more digital death here, but I think for me I'm trying to figure out the wisdom from the Maverick standpoint. That's never really been my style to play that kind of deck. So, I don't know.
I do think balance is the better choice most of the time, but a good Maverick player can definitely do quite a lot of damage. It's just about right map choice, right division choice. But if both players are playing Maverick, it doesn't really matter. It's just pretty much equivalent to both playing balance because there's no...
That's fair. That's absolutely fair.
Inequality, so to speak, in income. It's very equal. It's very communist.
And, well, we have seen that bridge down to the south has been picked up. So, I don't know, man. Znat is certainly not missing a step in trying to pick up some cheeky flags here and there, especially since he's been pushed back a little bit over here in the northern central position.
Yeah, he's been pushing very heavy on the flanks, and really this is quite a shame that UU has not exploited the center. As we can see, there's nothing yet, but he has a lot of forces ready to go in the center, but he's more concerned just having to deal with flanks. And I get it. He's being pushed pretty hard here, so that's where a lot of his attention is going. You're thinking much more defensively compared to, thinking about doing any offensive operations.
Unfortunately for him, Znat has not paid attention to the fact that there still is a PTRS in that southern crossroads. He's killed 3 trucks already.
Holy crap, that is cheesy, right? Yeah, and he's probably going to pick up 2 T-26s here in just a moment.
Well, and considering the fact, too, that one of those was a 20 mil, and another one I think was a 45 mil anti-tank gun, he's paying for himself and his buddies girlfriend and his buddy's girlfriend's sister. So I mean, like, he's quite economic.
Yeah, that's just been a really good engagement from so far. And there we go. Gonna be blasting the T-26s like it's the Moscow campaign and enlisted.
Yep.
And not doing any damage, just like the Moscow campaign and enlisted.
There's a lot of truth to that, too.
Gotta be very accurate.
Man. He's been blasting and laughing so long that I think Mama knows his mind is gone. He doesn't need to think that's the case. Jeez, he's taken out one of the T-26s. The other T-26s has continued to dither on through.
I think the PTRS is not as effective because it's shooting a Soviet vehicle.
Oh, no. Watch this, you say. Shot in the flank? No? Why are you holding your fire, my friend?
Shoot!
Exactly. Loader wounded. The rest of the world, whatever's happening to the rest of the world here, whatever.
It's like no armor on the side. How can one bounce?
I don't know, but there's still another 20 seconds before that loader gets replaced. So, they gotta drag the guy up from the motor pool. So, I mean, geez, this guy still has...
Yeah, there we go. That is... There's probably more important battles, but it's just so funny seeing such destruction by one anti-tank rifle.
It's gonna happen again, too, because 5 mils gonna get picked off now. Watch.
Screw the rest of the battle. This is where the real game is being played.
That's one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different vehicles have been taken out.
Yeah, and Znat's finally realized this. He's brought in the recon to try and find these buggers. So it's probably going to be the end of that PTRS play. But he did a lot of damage. Because if you look down south here, Znat hasn't been able to get any reinforcements. And that's really screwed up his momentum. UU managing to bring in the tanks.
And unfortunately now, geez, the Finnish Air Force is getting devastated. There was the biplane, the spotter biplane, brought in, taken out. Rocket biplane, brought in, taken out. Notice that there's these monoplanes over here, not having the same issues. And as I say that, MS-406, taken out.
Yeah, there we go.
Jesus, murder in the skies. But Northern Artillery Barrage, I don't know that UUUU knows that the 152s were called in just in time before he got killed.
Yeah.
That's 1 pickup, potentially 2. No, I kind of thought that truck was going to be picked up, and that'd be a much more beneficial thing as opposed to just stressing out that superiority. But regardless, there's no infantry to push this.
Yeah, it's not going to be... It's going to get a few kills, but there's nothing, like you said, to actually push on through to capitalize on his advantage. See, the Soviets are running down the hill. This would be a perfect time to bring in the infantry, which are actually coming, but they're like 20 seconds too late.
Yes. And I imagine had there not been that intercept, it might have been a more effective or efficient kind of usage here, but regrettably, there wasn't, and so therefore there isn't.
Is that all? If we're looking like the northern central position, we've got 3 T-34s pushing here. Some pretty good ground for him to take advantage of. This could be a pretty good push from UU if he does manage to make some good territorial gains. The problem, though, is that it's not a whole lot of flags in that general vicinity. It's really more of a tactical gain of just getting in the territory on the hill. So it's not going to really be picking him up that many points. But he doesn't need to. He's on the +1 point leads.
And as we say that, the 153 does absolutely nothing. Wow. So you were ready to preach it, and be like, yo, man, this is the greatest, biplane tank killer of all times. And he's been a bit lackluster, I have to say.
Yeah, could have been a bit more accurate. We're seeing a huge Yakari and other Finnish infantry post being brought. Actually, towards the center here is going to be reinforcing that now, so there goes that opportunity for UUU to actually push.
Yeah, that's true, but he's still going to pick up another 75 mil here in a second. That Stroke keep behind the front lines with all the SVTs and the DP, so... Unless he just doesn't realize that it's there, and he doesn't realize that it's there, never mind.
Oh. He can walk up to that 75 mil and say hello with machine gun fire. Well, I guess Mosin fire would probably be a bit too close range to use the machine guns.
Yeah, there's really no way I can talk about his sharing of camaraderie over here without making it enduringly kind of detestable, but, in any case.
20 mil going to absolute town on the DP squad, Jesus Christ.
But that's kind of what we expect, though, too. 20 mil engaging aircraft, substandard. 20 mil engaging infantry targets, there we go.
Cult of the autocannon, right, yeah.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Praise be to the Omnissiah. We are going to see... IL-2 runs. Oh, never mind. I thought the IL-2 runs are going to be a little bit more in the front line as opposed to that 50 mil, but I suppose I can understand why that is. I suppose. I can't guarantee, but I can suppose. There we go, yep.
That's a lot of firepower. You really wanted that 50 mil dead. I can kind of understand, because he wants to be able to stretch his legs with his tanks, as if he can start moving up his T-34s and T-70s, they can be a real game changer in the fire support. But if we look in the northern central position, I mean, T-34's actually moved off the hill and moved a little bit more down south here. A bit more dangerous territory for them, but it is definitely a little bit of a better call, as I think there's some more opportune flag opportunities here.
Yes, I would say provisionally that's certainly true. Take a quick look back down to the southern central position that you were talking about, and yep, these troops have not moved the entire time. I think it's a bit of a wasted opportunity, but of course he still is up 2 flags, so...
Yeah, I mean, both sides being Maverick, yes, no rush. Just as long as he holds the defensive position, doesn't lose any territory, and on Shell and his current positions, he's pretty well dug in all over. He has a lot of troops all over the bloody map. He'll be in a good spot. I mean, those T-34s are going to be proper good tanks in this sort of engagement. And head-on, Znat's going to have a hard time if he can flank around with infantry and get some anti-tank guns in some good spots. He can do some, good work with him. But in a head-on battle, not so much.
Probably not. That said, though, a lot of the anti-tank positions over here for Rapana have been getting taken out, whether by air cover or, in some cases like this northern position, we do see this Polish, firing Maxim is going to be at least forcing the 75 mil into, at least a pinned down position, of course, until he gets shot and killed and blown to smithereens. But I imagine there shall be vengeance for him. Maybe not for this IL-2, he's not for the infantry. But these 3 T-34s being brought on in there too, on the back of 2 more T-34s, another T-34 with recon optics, and a T-70. Like, there's a crazy amount of air power, a crazy amount of armor that the Finns just can't, hold up against. It's impossible.
Yeah, it's a main issue for Iron Rapana. They probably have some of the worst, dedicated anti-tank in the game. And tanks in general, they have a really pathetic tab in both of those categories, so you have to be very good in using your infantry to get in close, using Panzerfaust and Panzerschrecks to really, and also the airplanes. It's pretty much everything that's not tank or anti-tank to blow up the tanks. You have to play it real Finnish. You gotta sneak in the bridge, throw a Molotov in the engine compartment, and shout things in the funny language.
Exactly, and then you play the Jaws music, put a fin up while you're going through the water, and thus you become an urban legend in the shores of New Jersey. Seeing as how that joke did not land whatsoever, we're going to go back to the actual game itself. 75 mil over here that we were talking about behind the front lines. He's aligning on some guys that are coming to say hello to him, but I don't think he's going to be able to do a whole lot until the Descent and the Sapirzi over here are able to pick him off.
Yeah. Yeah, those 75mm guns are only going to be adequate, really, of doing the T-34s. They are shooting heat shells. They actually, oh, I forgot. They shoot pretty fast. So they do actually have a decent chance, actually, at blowing up the T-34s. It's not the most accurate things in the world.
No, they're not. But then again, the same thing could be said for either the PE2s and the 153s. And yet, it's one of those broken clock moments where, it's right twice a day kind of idea.
Mm-hmm.
That said, there's a rather hefty stocking or shoe, depending on how you look at it, being extended onto that map. You can see right there, the Poles are stamping out with a nice little Russian-backed foot in the northern central position, picking up a flag or two.
Yeah, it definitely feels like this match is really just coming down to the armor advantage. UUUU just has cheap tanks and vehicles all over the place, and Znat's having a very hard time dealing with it. I mean, for Reimer Apana, dealing with a heavy tank division with like Panthers and Tigers is probably easier compared to T-34s, because the T-34s, there's just so many of them on the battlefield. You have to devote so much micro to knock them out. While if you're fighting against heavier tanks, there's only going to be a few. And, a Panzerfaust is going to be just as effective against a Tiger. Or, I guess, KV-85 be a more apt comparison compared to a T-34. You just get overwhelmed in numbers, is what I'm trying to say. Like I've said multiple times, those T-34 76s are some of the best tanks in the game in 1v1s. Just because they do just enough damage to be scary, but are also just cheap enough for you to get a lot of them. They're in the perfect price mix.
And the thing I'm kind of looking forward to is why the heck did we not get any Katyusha so far? I think the little Katya could have cleared up that northern flank pretty damn quickly.
Yeah, he does have, that's his only artillery too, not even any off-map, which is quite unusual. We better see those goddamn Katy sing their song.
Of course, as we say that, the Sapirzi rocks down in the southern central position on that smaller of two hills. Terrifying enough that the Jakari are falling back, and I can't say that I blame them.
Yeah, those superior rocks are bloody scary with all their CQC firepower, and the Yakaris are, quite a decent infantry squad just due to their versatility, but they're not fantastic CQC squads by themselves. They don't. They have the Molotovs, but Molotovs have been nerfed quite a bit. They're just good generalists.
And honestly, one of the things I'm sure you guys noticed over here when we showed you the decks is that both sides have 50 squads of infantry, which basically means that these guys are ready and raring to go into that late game. There's Katyushas. The Katyushas are to the north.
I'm happy to see it. He's got both at the same time. He's going pretty hardcore here.
Only if they survive.
He he's pressing them pretty aggressively. Exactly. But honestly, you kind of have to the Catties because they have the better dispersion at close range.
Meanwhile, the 153s have been able to pick up a few kills here and there. Finnish troops being caught up and surrounded and getting, kind of abraded away, if I could put that in a polite way, other than just to say they're getting absolutely pounced on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Znat's is having a very hard time dealing with all this armor. He does have those anti-tank planes, but they are a little bit unreliable, unfortunately, for him. And a lot of his anti-tank guns have been getting killed. And he doesn't have a whole lot of anti-tank guns either. Not even that great. The best thing he really gets is Pak 38.
Which isn't saying much, but that doesn't saying that they're god-awful. It's just...
It's adequate against a T-34 spam division, but against anything else, they're pretty useless.
Well, the late models, too, you have to kind of watch out for that. But in any particular case... The Katyushas are almost to the front lines. What do you think this barrage is going? Do you think it's going northern side or southern side?
Oof, that's a good point. I'm gonna say north.
That's what I'm feeling too, just because of the concentration of forces. I feel like you don't throw T-70s, BA-10s, and a T-34 in some place you don't really care about.
Yeah. He seems like he's devoting quite a lot of resources in this northern hill position. I mean, it's good ground for him just because it's a bit more open. And he's just grinding down Znat. And I mean, UUUU has just been holding on to his +1 bleed for pretty much the entirety of the match. He doesn't need to get a +3 at this point. He's holding really well.
I mean, a +2 would be nice, don't get me wrong. But, so nothing just yet. We're going to keep an eye on that. Please.
No, in the central positions, Znat's actually making another push with the Ikaris. And this time it could work. He's got a decent amount of artillery fire coming down.
There's a decent amount of artillery, yes. There's not a whole lot of support on site, though. Like, direct support, pretty much non-existent.
Yeah, it's true. It was BA-10s and T-70 tanks, or one of them's an armoured car, will prove to be pretty decent at fire support, as long as they don't get too close to the Panzerfaust. Okay, the Superior Rocks is still alive, just in low HP, so you can still get one good flame in. Or no, doesn't get close enough.
It's quite alright. There's IL-2s coming in, and that's actually going to stop this push cold.
Oh yeah, there we go. The dreaded Polish IL-2s.
And there we go. Of course, they're going to get chased back the other direction, which is, it's kind of almost laughable, just because, first of all, it's still the flying brick. And second of all, there's 37 mils that are there just kind of give support, and those Hawks are not anywhere near close enough to be true pursuit planes. Again, just taking a quick look at the speed, yeah, 520. Not that really not that fast.
Yeah, the Finnish, honestly, the Finnish fighter aircraft for Rapan is really interesting because it's all these crappy, outdated planes from all these countries. They're not great in the interceptor role, but if they can get into dogfights in more of a defensive role, they're actually pretty decent because they usually have high veterancy, so their turn radiuses are pretty decent.
Well, and that's the thing, isn't it? Is that if you can get a turn fight for a lot of airplanes, Hurricanes can't switch their direction for shit.
Nope.
The Spitfire is still kind of a problem as well. But there's older craft. They're slow enough that it doesn't matter. So, looking in the meantime, let's see. We have a couple of squads of Strokey being brought out into the northern side. I'm guessing they're going to wait for the Strokeys to get brought in and almost deployed, and maybe use the Katyushas to barrage that. No, it doesn't. Okay. This is strange. This is very strange.
Very strange, yeah.
Now. They're aiming for the 40 mil behind the front lines. Guys, alright. So, I guess, kind of revealing, I think, to a lot of people here what our preferences might be. Why would you say focus on the front lines with a barrage of this sort as opposed to going for a support weapon? Or do you see that as a very, very intelligent moment here?
I think it's a little bit overkill using 2 against the 40 mil. I think 1 would be enough in this case. Because, yeah, you really want to take advantage of the Katyusha's shock capacity. But I think just in the heat of the moment, he really just wants that thing dead so he can take advantage of his IL-2s. But yeah, it has a lot of ammunition for just a single Bofors.
And there's another one 1,000 meters to the north that he's got to know has been there, because it's not a new. I don't think it has a full ammo load. No, it doesn't have a full ammo load, so he knows it's been there. Don't
worry, UUU's gonna resupply the Katyushas and blow up that one as well.
I'm sure.
He's gonna be the bane of Bofors.
The bane of Bofors. That feels like a very Tolkien-esque kind of nickname. UUUU, the bane of Bofors.
And Sauron was armed with a 40mm cannon and destroyed the armies of Gondor.
And at this point, there's a holy hand grenade joke hiding in there somewhere.
Yeah, that's the gate.
If I can find it.
As the gates of gates of Mordor opened, the armies of Gondor were greeted by Orlican cannon fire.
Now down south, quickly down south, we'll take a quick look. The T-70s, T-34s are getting engaged and blown to smithereens by a fast-moving attack of 45mm anti-tank guns. And smoke as well is thrown up into that town, and indeed, we're potentially going to see a taking of that town.
Potentially, I mean, the armor support is coming in, but he is getting the Akaris into those buildings, and they do have Panzerfaust, and those tanks are pretty close. Yeah, maybe a little bit too close, if you know what I mean.
True.
Yeah. But I really do like that push. Great use of smoke. He's going to open up a good tactical position here for Znat, and if he clears out this town, he's going to get the crossroads flag.
Man, what a shame that he didn't, UUUU didn't use those troops for anything in the first 30 minutes.
Yep.
No.
Oh no, he's going to hold it, I think.
It's
only one Ikari left.
It's Bear. He's going to get it. It's just he's not going to... Yeah, he's going to actually... I think he's going to be forced to put a lot more effort into it, though, too.
Very Pyrrhic victory.
Well, while that's happening, there's still a BA-10 and a T-70 on the central hill that are kind of prancing around and picking up some small things here and there. I'm actually wondering, can you ever see that supply truck? Not without getting much closer, luckily for Znat.
Yeah, I mean, UU just has such a dominant position in the north and central position. He just holds his, bulge for so bloody long, and does all the infantry of tanks. It's completely overrounds, Znat's defenses here.
Exactly. Exactly.
I like that one hawk just flying behind enemy lines. Doesn't have a care in the road. Until a yak comes in.
I think he just felt like an updraft. You know how hawks get sometimes. Just kind of swoop in various circles there. So
on the hunt.
One by one, Jakaris are getting forced into surrender. They're getting pinched off here. And while it's true that they do have AT, like you said, you gotta get awful close to use it.
Yeah. Yeah, and those Polish squads can be... I mean, they're pretty standard Soviet, style equipment, but they're pretty beefy. Those PPSH troops are good, dedicated CQC guys, and the Finnish troops are, smaller in size and compared to numbers, and are usually not as dedicated to any run rule. They're all kind of hybrid infantry. It actually makes them quite fun to use, but as you can see in, pure forest fights, spent, proper flamethrower troops and proper PPSH troops with T-34 fly support, the Finns are getting outmatched.
Exactly. Jakari just on the brink of actually taking that flag to the south. I think it's just Strotsky's going to go and put just enough firepower down on top of him that it's going to go down.
Yeah. And he didn't even really get that flag down south, which is a shame for Znat. But UU is going to be able to regain the area with all his Trotskys.
Certainly true for right now.
Yeah, +2 now. Yeah,
that's all she
wrote. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The Camel's back has definitely been broken and beaten at this point. That central push has just been so strong. It's just been a red rave of angry Poles pushing through. Even a few of these PPSH troops managing to get behind enemy lines. Or, I guess really the enemy is behind his own lines.
Well, we joked about it a little bit before, but that one PTRS squad legitimately might have won the southern flank for UUUU.
Honestly, it's pretty close in really saying that, because he shut down reinforcements for a good few minutes or so during a very pivotal time when Znat had a chance to make some sort of offensive maneuvers, but he didn't get the reinforcements, so he just had to hold, and he lost that momentum.
He absolutely did. I do think both players were a little bit tentative. I know God Vision being what it is, it's kind of hard for me to say that with a straight face, but that's why I am on this side of the replay. But I do have to doff my hat. Neither guy really gave an inch. Once the fighting really got going, both guys stuck in and kept it there. until this final bell that's going to be happening.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Znat was really just screwed over in regards to the tank play, but that's what happens when you play Reimer or Partner. You have to be very good with dealing with enemy armor and an unorthodox raise. Very tough division to play. But I do love seeing it because I just like seeing Finland. I'm very biased in that regard.
The KD is a little bit closer than I expected.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Honestly, yeah, I mean, the thing with Reimer Partner too is that a lot of their stuff is pretty cheap, so it's
True.
hard to get like super high KDs against them.
True. And as we expected, the PTRS, 7 kills. He's the hero. He's the hero of the moment.
Yeah, actually, just MVP of the match, right? Yeah, for 10 bloody points, yeah, paid himself off in the end some.
On the opposite side of things, 20 mil as well. 20 mil churning his way through, actually through the T-34. Well done, sir.
Wow.
And just killing a buttload of infantry other than that. So.
Oh, one of the I-53s knocked out 1, 2, 3 tanks, which is pretty good.
Mm-hmm. And that Pack 40, not the Pack, excuse me, the 45 mil Nirma over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 3 real vehicles and a universal carrier, as well as an infantry team. So Finns not quite down and out, but at the same time certainly have their work cut out for them in the future about fighting even a more infantry-based, focused kind of deck.
Yeah, and I mean, First Pose are such a powerhouse because they got the T-34s, they got a lot of good infantry, and the IO2s. It's a deadly trifecta for, you know, just what you need in a 1v1.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But any final thoughts, sir?
Oh.
Well, folks, in that case, then, I think that's going to be it over here for our coverage this week. Until next time, I'm Conalwork.
I'm Rangru, take it easy.